Hello, students. Welcome to Weekly Current Affairs presented by Medha Institute of Education. This current affairs is for the first week of August, and we are going to cover important topics like BIMSTEC, appointment of UPSC chairman, Bhopal gas tragedy, India China border dispute, Disaster Management Act of 2005, and CAR T cell therapy. I am following a slightly different approach than the previous video. Instead of giving the current affairs in the question answer format with the right and wrong answers, I am going to cover all this topic in a precise and a detailed manner. So let us go to the first topic, that is BIMSTEC.
The first topic for today's discussion is BIMSTEC. So why was it in news is because India is to host first BIMSTEC Business Summit in 2024. So let us know about the historical background about BIMSTEC. BIMSTEC was initiated in the year June 6, 1997 through Bangkok Declaration. Its headquarters is located in Dhaka, Bangladesh, and in the year 1997, when it was formed, it was known as BISTEC. BISTEC was the acronym for Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Thailand, and ENC stood for Economic Cooperation. In the very same year, Myanmar joined the group and the acronym changed to BIMSTEC, adding the initials of Myanmar into the group. In 2004, the latest addition to this group was made when two countries, namely Nepal and Bhutan, joined this group, and the acronym of BIMSTEC changed completely. So BIMSTEC now stands for the Bay of Bengal Initiative for Multi-Sectoral Technical and Economic Cooperation. So let us go and see the countries of BIMSTEC. When I zoom the map here, I can see that all the countries of BIMSTEC are closely located with each other. India shares maritime border with Sri Lanka and Thailand, and it shares land borders with Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and Myanmar. So India shares borders with all the BIMSTEC nations. So now let us understand the objectives and areas of cooperation. The objectives and areas of cooperation of BIMSTEC nations are promotion of trade and investment, development of transport and communication infrastructure, cooperation in energy, tourism development, environmental and disaster management, and cultural cooperation. So the common things about BIMSTEC is most of them are developing countries and they face common challenges like poverty and inequality. Most of the countries follow Buddhism and Hinduism, and Bay of Bengal is shared by many of the BIMSTEC countries. So when there is a kind of any cyclone going in Bay of Bengal, most of the BIMSTEC countries gets affected. What are the challenges of BIMSTEC country? The very first challenge is economic transaction. So the economic transaction of BIMSTEC nation is much more with other countries rather than its member countries. And the another challenges is although infrastructure development is always talked about by the BIMSTEC country, but there is a huge gap in its implementation. The third challenges is bureaucratic hurdles, which slows the process of BIMSTEC countries. Although there are many challenges that BIMSTEC nations face, but this group is very important because it not only strengthens the neighborhood but also it helps in countering terrorism and checking the drug supply. So BIMSTEC is very important group for all-round development of all the nations. So now let us move to the other topic. The next topic for today is appointment of UPSC chairman. It was in the news because Preeti Sudan has been appointed as the new UPSC chairman. UPSC is a very important body. Many of you may be preparing for UPSC examinations like civil services, combined defense services, NDA, combined engineering services, combined medical services, and so many premium services. So this body becomes very important. First of all, UPSC is a constitutional body. Keep in mind that it's the constitutional body. It's not a statutory body. It is a constitutional body. So the articles covered for UPSC is Article 315 to Article 323, and the articles deals with establishment, appointment, functions and conditions of services related to UPSC and its members. The UPSC chairman is appointed by the President of India, and the chairman can also be removed by the President of India. So remember these two facts: appointed also by the President of India, and the UPSC chairman can also be removed only by the President of India under specific conditions with Supreme Court's involvement in cases of misbehavior. And the tenure of UPSC chairman is 6 years until the age of 65. So let us talk about Preeti Sudan. Preeti Sudan is a 1983 batch IS officer who served as Health Secretary of India from October 2017 to July 2020. She replaced Manoj Soni and took the charge from August 1st. So let's move on to next topic now. The next topic for today's discussion is Bhopal gas tragedy. Bhopal gas tragedy is one of the worst industrial disaster of the world. So it becomes very important for us to know this tragedy in detail. It was in the news because Madhya Pradesh government has begun disposing 336 tons of toxic waste from Union Carbide plant almost 40 years after the gas leak tragedy. The plant in which the incident took place was owned by United Carbide India Limited, and it was located in Bhopal. This plant used to produce a pesticide called savine, and for the production of savine, methyl isocyanate was used. So what happened on the night of 2nd December 1984 was a large number of water entered the tank containing methyl isocyanate. So methyl isocyanate reacted with water, causing exothermic reaction, forming carbon dioxide and methylamine. So huge number of toxic gas was released in the atmosphere. The immediate symptoms faced by the people there was coughing, eye irritation and breathing difficulties. While they were still confused about the symptoms, why were they facing it? Within the first few days, thousands of people started dying, with an estimate ranging from 3,000 to 8,000 people. So many deaths happened within a few span of time. And the people who were spared had the long-term health impact like respiratory problem, blindness, reproductive health issues, neurological damage, and they had to deal with soil and water pollution. The tragedy led to a widespread criticism of Union Carbide, and it could have been prevented because the proper maintenance of equipment such as the refrigeration system used to store methyl isocyanate was not functioning properly. In fact, it was closed to save the cost. There was no alarm system, emergency preparedness like evacuation plan, disaster management plan was not present. The legal battle for Bhopal gas tragedy is still going on after decades. But even after having received compensation, this damage cannot be reversed because the soil and water cannot be purified. The life taken cannot be reversed. This tragedy serves as a grim reminder of potential damage of industrial negligence and critical importance of prioritizing human life and environment. So this was a very sad tragedy, and it is very important for the exam. So remember this. Let us now move to the next topic. The next topic we are going to cover is India-China border dispute. So India-China border dispute is a very important topic because frequently there is an ongoing talk between India and China regarding their borders. So let us understand this dispute at a great detail. When we look at the map here, we see that there are four states, namely Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, and Arunachal Pradesh, that share boundary with China, and there is a UT, Jammu and Kashmir, that share border with China. So remember, Jammu and Kashmir, it's not a state, it is a union territory. The border has been divided into three different sectors. The western sector consists of Jammu and Kashmir, and it is the longest of all, covering 2,150 kilometers. The middle sector is the least disputed one, and we have two states in it, namely Himachal and Uttarakhand. And in the eastern sector, we have Sikkim and Arunachal Pradesh. Now, let us go to the historical background of India and China border dispute. The first dispute was regarding the McMahon Line. McMahon Line was a line drawn between Tibet and British India as a part of 1940 Shimla Conference. China did not agree with the McMahon Line, and India considers McMahon Line to be the boundary between India and China. Another area of dispute is the Askai Chin region. Askai Chin region lies in the western sector, and it is a disputed region between India and China. During British era, Askai Chin was a part of princely state of Jammu and Kashmir. China gained control over this region in 1962 Indo-China War. Since then, China has been controlling this region, but India claims this region to be a part of UT of Ladakh. Another place which there is a great dispute between the two nations is Arunachal Pradesh. Arunachal Pradesh is administered by India based on the McMahon Line, which China refuses to accept. The Indo-China border dispute also led to major conflicts like the Sino-India War of 1962. This war was very memorable because our soldiers fought very bravely, but we were not prepared for this war because we underestimated the Chinese intentions. The leaders of that time believed that China would not start large military action against India, and they were totally wrong. The second reason that we did not win this war is inadequate military preparedness. We did not have sufficient winter clothing, weapons, and ammunition to push the Chinese forces back, which eventually led to China controlling the Askai Chin region. And the other major dispute was Nathula and Chola clashes of 1967, which happened in the mountainous region of Sikkim. And in this clash, we successfully defended our position and caused significant casualties on Chinese forces. The recent clashes is the Doklam issue. Doklam is a plateau in the tri-junction of India, Bhutan, and China. So what happened here was China started building roads in this area, and Bhutan viewed this as an encroachment of their land and asked India for help. After 73 days of intense military and diplomatic standoff, there was a mutual withdrawal of both India and China from this region. The recent dispute was of that of Ladakh 2020. This incident occurred in the night of June 15, 2020 in Galwan Valley. So this was the recent one which occurred in the Galwan Valley, in which a violent clash broke between India and Chinese troops, which resulted in death of 20 Indian soldiers. Chinese side also faced casualties, but they did not disclose the number. So Galvan Valley is an important valley because it is located in eastern part of Union Territory of Ladakh, near line of actual control. It lies within disputed region of Askai Chin, which is controlled by China but claimed by India. So this is the detailed analysis of Indo-China border dispute. Hope you liked this explanation, and let's move on to next topic. The next topic we are going to cover is the Disaster Management Act of 2005. It was in the news because government introduced Disaster Management Amendment Bill in Lok Sabha. So this is a very important topic, and because of the recent events like Wayanad landslide, cloudburst in Uttarakhand and Himachal Pradesh, it shows a perfect example of having an effective disaster management plan. So let us understand what is a disaster. A disaster is a sudden, catastrophic event that causes loss to human life and property. It can be both natural and man-made. Before the Disaster Management Act was enacted, India was largely reactive. For example, we did not have any preparedness and prevention plan. We were reactive on disasters. So disasters like 1999 Orissa cyclone and 2001 Gujarat earthquake highlighted the need for more structured approach. So the Disaster Management Act of 2005 was a significant piece of legislation in India designed to establish a comprehensive framework for disaster management. It is an all-round approach for disaster management. Management Act of 2005 created a lot of institutions. The first being the National Disaster Management Authority. And remember, NDMA is headed by the Prime Minister of India and it is responsible for formulating policies, plans and guidelines for disaster management for whole of the country. Then we have the State Disaster Management Authority, which is headed by the Chief Minister of the respective state. And we have the District Disaster Management Authority, which is headed by the District Magistrate or the District Collector. So if you crack UPSC and be an IS officer, you'll have a very important responsibility of making plans and managing disaster at the district level. The next one is the National Executive Committee. The National Executive Committee is headed by the Union Home Secretary. Its main function is to execute plan carried by the National Disaster Management Authority. And the next very important body is the National Disaster Response Force. The NDRF was created under the Disaster Management Act of 2005 with the objective of creating a specialized force for effective disaster response and management. The primary role of NDRF includes search and rescue operation during disasters, including the evacuations of affected populations and provisions of emergency medical aid. So as we can see in the Wayanad landslide, NDRF team is working day and night and rescuing the people there. And the next institution is National Institute of Disaster Management. This institute is located in New Delhi and its main function is to provide training and build the capacity of various stakeholders involved in disaster management, including government, disaster managers, and community leaders. And we have the national plan and the state and district plan. The national plan is for whole of the country and the state and district plan is for the respective state and the respective district of that state. So even we have funds for disaster management, the first being the National Disaster Response Fund. And remember the fact that this is managed by Ministry of Home Affairs. So this fund is utilized for disaster response and relief activities that require national level intervention. And we have state and district funds that are used to provide immediate relief like rescue operation, temporary housing, shelter, and relief supplies. Now let us talk about some of the limitations of Disaster Management Act of 2005. The first limitation is it is a top-down approach. Top-down approach refers to a strategy in which directives are made by higher level authorities and it is passed down to the lower level authorities. But what happens in a disaster is the local people are the ones to face the disaster and they should be given maximum power to handle the disaster. So one limitation is it is a top-down approach. The another limitation is the coordination challenge. Although it establishes institutional mechanism, actual coordination between different levels of government becomes very challenging during disasters. The third is financial constraints. The Act provides for financial resources, but timely availability and adequacy can be an issue, especially for small disasters. And the last limitation is limited role for local bodies. As we have already discussed, local bodies becomes very important for overall successfully managing the disasters. Amendments proposed by the bill. The first is establishing State Disaster Response Force. Second is empowering National Disaster Management Act to assess wider range of disaster risks. The third is granting statutory recognition to existing bodies like National Crisis Management Committee. And the last is providing for penalties for non-compliance with disaster management directives. So this was all for Disaster Management Act of 2005. Now let us move to the next topic. The last topic that we will be covering today is CAR T cell therapy. It was in the news for its cancer treatment and the challenges and opportunities that it faces. So, cancer treatment is very important. According to the National Cancer Registry Program, in India alone, so I'm giving this data only for India. In a year, around 8 to 9 lakh people die because of cancer. That also in a year. Around the world, it is around 10 million. So any drug related to cancer treatment or any new treatment related to cancer becomes extremely important for our examination. So let us learn about CAR T cell therapy. CAR T cell therapy is also known as chimeric antigen receptor T cell therapy. It is an advanced form of immunotherapy used to treat certain type of cancer, mainly blood cancers like leukemia and lymphoma. This therapy involves modifying a patient's own T cells and making them attack the cancer cells. So let us understand what is T cells. T cells is a part of white blood cells and they play a central role in the immune system. They are crucial in both activating and regulating the immune responses. So T cells are modified in this therapy to attack the cancer cells. So let us understand the process. The first process is T cell collections. So in T cell collections, the blood is drawn from the patient and a process called leukapheresis is used to separate out the white blood cells which contains the T cells. The rest of the blood is put back into the patient's body. Next is genetic modification. So the white blood cells along with the T cells are modified to recognize special proteins on the surface of cancer cells. The third is T cell expansion. The modified T cells are then grown and expanded in a lab and to create a million of CAR T cells. This process can take several weeks. The fourth step includes CAR T cell infusion. The engineered CAR T cell are infused back into the patient's bloodstream, which is similar to blood transfusion. The last step involves putting the genetically modified T cells into the patient and targeting the cancer cell. So this is the process of CAR T cell therapy. Now let us move to the advantages and disadvantages. Let's start with the advantages. The first advantage is personalized treatment. CAR T cell therapy is tailored to individual patients because T cells are collected from the patient, it is genetically modified and expanded before being reinfused. This personalized approach allows the therapy to target specific cancer cells effectively. The other is potential for long-term remission. CAR T cell therapy has demonstrated the ability to induce long-term remission in patients, especially with blood cancers like leukemia. The third is targeted therapy. CAR T cell therapy is a targeted therapy that identifies and attacks specific cancer cells while minimizing damage to the normal cells. What happens in traditional chemotherapy is that all the cells are attacked, including the healthy cell. That makes the patient weak and prone to many diseases. But in targeted therapy, only the cancer cell is attacked. Let us now understand the challenges associated with CAR T cell therapy. The first one is cytokine release syndrome, also known as CRS. CRS is one of the most common and serious side effects of CAR T cells. It occurs when the infused cells release large number of cytokines in response to the cancer cell. This can lead to a systematic inflammatory response.
The other is neurological disorder. Patients undergoing CAR T cell can have some neurological side effects which can cause confusion, seizures, aphasia, and in rare cases coma. The third one is limited effectiveness in solid tumors. While CAR T-cell therapy has been successful in treating certain blood cancers, its effectiveness in solid tumors has been very limited. So, this is the end of today's lecture. We have covered all these important topics. I hope the session went well for you. If you want to know the top 10 current affairs for every day, you can follow and subscribe to this channel.